The Assembly Committee on Government Affairs will come to order. Mr. Secretary, please call roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson.
Present.
Assemblywoman Black.
Here.
Assemblywoman Brown May.
Here.
Assemblywoman Considine.
Present.
Assemblywoman Dickman.
Here.
Assemblywoman Duran. Assemblyman Ellison.
Here.
Present.
Assemblywoman Martinez.
Present.
Assemblyman Matthews.
Here.
Assemblyman MacArthur.
Here.
Assemblywoman Thomas.
Here.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Here.
Chair Flores.
Present. Secretary, please let the record reflect that all members are present. I know Assemblywoman Duran jumped on right after we were switching over to the next member, but Assemblywoman Duran is present. Members, today we have one bill presentation, Assembly Bill 48. As always, I want to remind you to please keep your microphone on mute unless you are speaking. Please keep your camera on unless you have an emergency or something you have to do. Obviously, at that time, please feel free to turn off the camera to take care of whatever issue you have to handle. I also want to remind those of you who will be speaking today, after each member asks a question, please state your name for the record. That's to help our staff on the back end who are taking minutes. And as always, those of you wishing to speak in public comment will be doing that at the end of the meeting. And with that, I'd like to open up the hearing on Assembly Bill 48. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Chair Flores. I'm assuming it's okay to start.
Yes, hi, good morning.
Okay. Good morning, Chair Flores and members of the committee. I am Laura Rich, Executive Officer of the Public Employees Benefits Program. I also have with me today Ms. Nancy Spinelli, Pebb's Quality Control Officer and Subject Matter Expert, as well as Deputy Attorney General Brandy Mooneyhan, who has researched and can speak on the legislative history related to today's agenda item. I'm here today to present on AB 48, which is a bill that is intended to fix an unintended problem that has disenfranchised many retirees participating in Pebb. So I'll start out with a little bit of background. Prior to November 30th of 2008, local government retirees or local governmental retirees were eligible to join the Public Employees Benefits Program, regardless of their former employer's participation in the program. So those retirees who retired from their employer could come to Pebb and participate in the Pebb program. However, Senate Bill 544 of the 2007 legislative session amended Pebb's eligibility provisions by disallowing retirees of local governments to join Pebb if that local government that had employed the retiree did not participate in the program at the time. So NAC 287095 defines who is eligible to participate in Pebb and incorporates those members who are grandfathered into the program on November 30th of 2008. Currently, Pebb has 8 active non-state local governmental retirees or employees and 5,936 non-state retirees, which are primarily the non-state population that have been grandfathered into the plan on November 30th of 2008. So as of 2011, Pebb requires, with some exceptions, Medicare eligible retirees to participate on the Medicare exchange by enrolling in a Pebb directly through Via Benefits. That is a Pebb vendor. Retirees enrolled through VIA benefits receive a years of service subsidy, which is provided in the form of a monthly health reimbursement rearrangement, or also referred to as an HRA contribution. Retirees may be eligible for up to $260 a month, which can be used to reimburse eligible medical expenses and Medicare plan or dental premiums. So if a retiree fails to enroll in a plan through VIA benefits or disenrolls from a plan through VIA benefits, they are terminated from the program. So what is the Medicare exchange and why does Pebb require it? First of all, Pebb is a self-funded plan. This means that premiums coming in must cover the claims being paid out. So during the last recession, Pebb was faced with an enormous budget challenge and had to come up with ways to reduce the program's overall liability. So in general, the older you get, the more you utilize healthcare and the more expensive you become to insure. And that's why the exchange was implemented. Pebb was able to shift the cost of healthcare entirely onto Medicare, while we were able to continue to provide Medicare eligible retirees access to a menu of Medicare plans to choose from. It also allowed Pebb to provide Medicare retirees with that HRA account that I spoke about, that is determined by the years of service. So this HRA account helps them, again, cover the cost of their Medicare premiums, which are usually much less expensive than those offered to the pre-Medicare and non-Medicare retirees that are on our Pebb plans. It's also meant to help cover the cost of other qualifying medical expenses not covered by Medicare. So what is the problem here? It's the non-state retiree disenrollment problem. Currently, statute NRS 287-0475 addresses the reinstatement of insurance by a retired public officer, employee, or surviving spouse. That statute, as it currently reads, allows retirees from a participating state agency or local government to reinstate coverage if they have no more than one period not covered by the program. So this allows retirees from the state and participating local governments one opportunity to return to the program as late enrollees during open enrollment period, should they disenroll. It does not, however, provide the same opportunity to non-state retirees, since they do not fall under the definition of a participating local government agency. They don't have, those local government agencies do not have their active employees on the plan, so they are not considered participating. Since 2011, numerous state and non-state Medicare exchange retirees have been affected by this rule, and many non-state retirees have permanently lost their benefits. Retirees enrolled through VIA benefits have the opportunity every year to change plans during that Medicare open enrollment period. And it's usually during this period that retirees mistakenly enroll directly with the carrier, which results in an agent of record change. And once that agent of record is altered, the retiree is no longer covered in a medical plan for VIA benefits. In other cases, Medicare plans are discontinued and retirees are required to choose a new plan. So in some cases, carriers are authorized to what's called crosswalking members on a discontinued plan to a comparable plan should the member not actively choose a new plan. However, in some cases, there is no comparable plan, and insurance carriers are not able to crosswalk those members, and so they have to actively select and enroll in a new option. If a retiree fails to do this, then they are disenrolled. So in both cases that I just described, they're no longer considered enrolled in a medical plan through VIA benefits, and they are subsequently disenrolled from the program and terminated from Pebb because statute requires participation in the Pebb plan. It's not until they receive termination notices from Pebb that retirees begin to realize the consequences of their actions. So, recognizing this, Pebb includes language stressing the importance of making any plan changes through VIA benefits in all of our communications. So our retiree guides, resources, trainings, we even send reminders before every open enrollment period. But of course, there's still situations where this happens. And unfortunately, there are retirees that fall into this category every single year. Those retirees end up disenrolling and they end up losing their HRA subsidy. So state retirees can mitigate the damage by reinstating during Pebb open enrollment as late enrollees. They have one chance to do this per statute, but non-state retirees do not have that. They lose their ability to participate in the program, lose their HRA subsidies permanently. Based on the data that has been provided by VIA Benefits, Pebb estimates that approximately 1,403 non-state retirees have been disenrolled from the plan in this matter since 2011. So those retirees no longer are receiving their HRA subsidy. Pebb believes it's reasonable to provide non-state retirees the same opportunity that state retirees are offered to reinstate their Medicare exchange plan. This change does not have a budgetary impact to Pebb since the HRA subsidies are funded by the local governments. And also, had these retirees not disenrolled, the local governments would have been required to provide that funding regardless. So essentially, this is a bill that I believe is very important because the retirees on VIA benefits in many instances are, they're older. In some cases, they have family members who are administering or guiding those retirees through their health insurance selections, and they may not understand the rules. Previous to my role as the executive officer, I was the operations officer. And as the operations officer, eligibility is one of the tasks that is overseen by that role. And I can tell you that we probably saw, I would say, a handful of these a week. And unfortunately, because of statute, we cannot make exceptions. And it has caused a lot of problems to these retirees, and unfortunately, lifetime benefits have been lost because of this. So this is an attempt to fix that and at least give them a one-shot opportunity similar to what those state retirees have. So with that, I will take any questions.
Excuse me. Thank you for that presentation. I know some of the members and some of the members pointed out that we believe you were reading those remarks. I think you did a good background history. Here's where we're at. Here's the issue. If you wouldn't mind sharing those remarks with our committee manager, Ms. Bishop, and then she can give those to the members, I think it'd be very helpful to everyone. If you're comfortable doing that, please. And members, Ms. Bishop will get that via email, and then she'll disperse it to all the members accordingly. And again, thank you for that thorough presentation and walking us through the history and helping us understand where we are, where we stand, and where we're going with this. We'll start off first with Assemblyman Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Executive Officer Rich. Thank you for your presentation. Great to have you with us here today. I just had a question. I think you touched on this briefly, but it seems to me that anytime you do broaden access to a public program, there would be some type of cost borne by government at some level. The LCB draft of this bill indicates, however, that there would be no fiscal impact on either the state or local governments. And on the surface, at least, that seems a little bit counterintuitive. Presumably that there would be some difference in cost somewhere, either with this bill or absent this bill. And I'm wondering if you might be able to just talk through that a little bit and see if let me know if I'm missing something, just kind of explain why there would be no fiscal impact according to LCB. Thank you.
Sure. So for the record, Laura Rich, there is no fiscal impact to the state. However, there would be a fiscal impact to the local government agencies to where these retirees came from. So, for example, because these are coming from local government agencies, or, for example, like the Clark County School District. Clark County School District does not currently participate in Pebb. However, as part of that grandfathering in, we have many non-state retirees who potentially have come from their previous background is at Clark County School District. So Clark County School District in this situation would, if a non-state retiree came back, they had lost their benefits. At one point, Clark County School District was paying their HRA. They were liable for that retiree's HRA benefit, which today is up to $260 a month, depending on the years of service. So Clark County would have been paying for that. Clark County School District would have been paying for that HRA benefit. And then when that member terminated and left the plan, they no longer were funding that. If that member came back through their one-shot opportunity, this would be funded by the Clark County School District, or I'm just using that as an example, but it could be, the other side of that is sometimes it's a multiple agencies. So it could be Clark County School District was 10 years, and then maybe another local government agency was another 10 years. And so it would be split among those two local governments. So there is a potential that the local governments would have to absorb the cost, or any of these members that came back would have to absorb that cost. It is unknown as to who is going to come back. I'm, out of these 1,400, how many are deceased? We don't know that, right? So it's unknown. We can't put a dollar figure on to, who is going to have to foot how much of the bill. But it's not a fiscal note to the state, if that makes sense.
It does, and thank you. And Mr. Chairman, if I could just be permitted a very brief follow-up.
Please follow up.
Thank you, and thank you for that, Ms. Rich. So I guess my confusion then came from reading here that it says that there would be no on the bill. It says there would be no fiscal note on local government. If I'm understanding you correctly, presumably there would be some indeterminate but still likely existent fiscal impact on local government. So maybe there was something that got into the bill text that wasn't quite supposed to be there. Could have been clarified a little bit. That sound correct? And I'm not asking you to call anybody out. That's not my intent. But there would be likely some local government fiscal impact. That's correct?
For the record, Laura Rich, that is correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Next, we'll go to Assemblyman Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the presentation. And I'm following what my colleague said, because I had the same question. But say that I know that there's a lot of people in local governments, like the cities and the counties, that were elected officials or not elected officials, or people that are retiring. So would they put this into somebody that was in them programs? That that part didn't make sense when you said local government. Like school districts could understand the program because of school teachers and so on. But when you said local government, that's where I got kind of confused. Because say people were there 10 years, 20 years, they'd still qualify for this. Is that correct?
For the record, Laura Rich, I think I understand your question. I'm going to try to answer it. If I'm not answering it, please let me know. So yes, prior to 2008, Pebb had many local governments that participated in the program, mainly with their retirees. And so they covered their active employees, but their retirees would come to Pebb. And so obviously this changed within Pebb during that time, because if Pebb is covering retirees, it's lopsided, right? You need the actives to subsidize the retirees, because one population is a lot more costly than the other, right? So at the time, knowing that this was not going to be something that that trend was not going to make Pebb a successful program for active employees, what it did is it shut down the ability for those non-state local government retirees to participate on Pebb. It was an all or nothing. A local government agency, you either have to come with your actives and retirees or nothing to participate in Pebb. But because there were already a group of retirees, they weren't just kicked off the plan. So they were grandfathered in. So these are the retirees that we're talking about, are the retirees that are left that were grandfathered in from these local agencies. So these local agencies or local governments do not participate in Pebb today as with their active employees, but we still have their retirees. And so they continue to fund the HRA portion of that cost for their retirees. And like I said, it could be multiple agencies. So one retiree could have, let's say, three. They could have a city, a county, and maybe a school district that they come from, and so it's split. That $260 a month is split. The cost is split between those three agencies. So there could be multiple. It could be one. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Because I was kind of confused because, we're looking at the state agencies the way it is to the public employees. And then when I'm looking at the city and county, there's a lot of people left there. And when they had no insurance, they had no retirement. So I didn't know if that would fall into this or not. So I'm going to send a copy of this to the county in one of my districts and have them look at this also. But I really appreciate it. You did a great job of explaining yourself. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Assemblyman. If next we can go to Assemblywoman Thomas.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you for that presentation, Ms. Rich. AB 48, I've read it and looked over it a couple of 2, 3, I don't know how many times, and I want to make sure that I'm understanding this. Non-state employees would be a person like myself who work for local government, and I've retired. I could, as a retiree, non-state employee, be enrolled in Pebb? That's one question. I have a couple of more.
Laura Rich, for the record, you would have had to have been grandfathered in at the time. And so new retirees, it's after 2008, it's an all or nothing. You come with your actives, you come with your retirees. but you can't, it's an all or nothing. So you would have had to have been grandfathered in as part of one of those local government entities as a retiree back in 2008.
And follow-up, Chair, please.
Follow up, please.
Thank you. So, any retiree prior to 2008, their spouse would be eligible for Pebb.
Laura Rich, for the record, if they had a spouse as a dependent at the time, yes. They do not receive an HRA subsidy, though.
What about an ex-spouse?
No, that would not be eligible.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Could we please go next to Assemblywoman Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. How are you today? It's always lovely to see you, Ms. Rich. Quick question, actually, and it's not necessarily in the language that's being discussed, the new language. Instead, it's in the section 1.1, where it's very clearly stated that it does not include life insurance. And I think from the 2011 is when that decision to take out the life insurance was made. Why was life insurance not a consideration to add back in?
Laura Rich, for the record. So life insurance, if you disenroll from the program, from Pebb, regardless if you are a state or non-state retiree, that benefit is terminated and does not get reinstated. And I believe the reason that it was done this way is because of adverse selection. So let's say that you have a retiree who has a better option and decides to participate in their health plan, another option, another health plan, and does not participate in Pebb. However, they unfortunately discover that they have a terminal illness, and so they decide to come back to the plan in order to get that life insurance benefit. And so that in the insurance world is called adverse selection. You want to try to avoid that as much as you can because it is, you want to ensure that the people that get the benefit are, receive that benefit. And it's not just because you found out, similar to you have insurance, everyone would love to have insurance and only pay their premium only when they needed to go to the doctor. But we force people to pay it for the 12 months because of that adverse selection. So it's the same thing with life insurance.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. If next we can go to Assemblywoman Dickman.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. So I'm just wondering if it would be fair to say that we're talking about people who were made a promise while they were working for, say, local governments or other entities who have now fallen through the cracks because of a statute that was changed and, the effects were not seen at the time.
For the record, Laura Rich, yes, and that's essentially what we're trying to do is when the statute was changed or, when the Medicare exchange was established, it was not foreseen that retirees would make such make these types of mistakes and disenroll in the program or in their, with our vendor and then in turn with Pebb. And so this is essentially trying to fix that and give those retirees one shot to come back and to undo their mistake, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And I think if if it's a promise that we've made to these people, we have to keep it. Thanks so much.
And thank you, Assemblywoman. Next, we'll go to Assemblywoman Considine.
Thank you, Chairman Flores, and thank you for your presentation. Reading this bill outside of the context that you just gave us this morning was a little difficult. So thank you so much for that. And I look forward to getting that in writing because then I can kind of solidify all of this. My question is kind of a follow-up to Assemblywoman Dickman's question. But for a mistake a senior retired person can potentially make in a confusing health plan selection situation, they get like sort of one shot to make that mistake. But I'm assuming that this selection of these plans, especially as seniors get older, could get more and more confusing. Are there any protections or guardrails, or do we have any sort of plan to help these seniors avoid these mistakes, especially when someone in their family is trying to like help them and accidentally disenroll them 5 years from now or 10 years from now? Or is this, we're just worried about the one shot, but we haven't really gotten a plan to make sure that these seniors don't make this mistake again? Thank you.
Laura Rich, for the record, I really appreciate that question because it is something that down the road I would like to focus on possibly fixing, maybe even next session, and maybe changing the language to where it is no longer tied to participation with a Medicare vendor specifically, but maybe just participation in our HRA administration. And then that way it doesn't tie them to the vendor specifically. We have in order to get this HRA contribution, they have to participate with our current vendor, with our Medicare Exchange via benefits is what they're called. There has been there's been a survey that was put out. The previous executive officer to me did release a survey several years ago to retirees, potentially looking at this option to untie that requirement. But with that comes some, we're unable to provide customer service. If a member goes to any Medicare plan and uses outside of our contracted vendor through the Medicare Exchange, we're unable to provide customer service. And from the responses that were received from the exchange, from the retirees, it didn't sound like that was something that the group, the population respondents was interested in. So this is something that I want to work with. We have some advocacy groups that AFSCME and RPEN, which I'm sure you'll hear from in public comment, that I do want to follow up with in the future so that maybe we can fix this so it is not just a one shot, because I'll tell you what, there's plenty of state retirees who have used their one shot. And in fact, I had one the other day that was escalated to me where they had used their one shot. This was their second time. And by, per statute, I can't make an exception to that. So it's something that I definitely want to work on and spend some time on. How can we make this right for retirees? And I will be working with the advocacy groups on this, hopefully to bring something at to the next legislative session.
Thank you very much. And thank you for looking forward on this and working on something. And I'm happy to be involved in that if I can help as well. And thank you for the question, Chair.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. And members, I don't believe we have any other questions. However, if I have missed someone, please unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
Annie Black, I have a question, please.
Assemblywoman Black, please.
So if you're already enrolled in the program, I'm assuming that you automatically re-enroll unless you choose to search out another plan.
Laura Rich, for the record. So if you are enrolled as a Medicare retiree. So we're only looking at the Medicare retirees. They're on Medicare plans, not on the Pebb plan. This is why they're on the Medicare exchange. They have to enroll through Via Benefits. And Via Benefits offers a menu of options, a menu of different plans for those retirees, depending on what area they live in, what their geographic location is. They must enroll through Via Benefits. The difference is, for example, let's say that Via Benefits offers an AARP plan that a member can enroll in. But let's say that a retiree is at some health fair or some sort of event where AARP is there advertising their plans, and they say, well, look, we have this plan for you. It's $10 a month cheaper or whatever it is, or it offers this benefit versus that benefit. Why don't you enroll with us? And so they enroll directly with the carrier. And so what ends up happening is the Via Benefits loses that member. Via Benefits is no longer the agent of record, and they have now that member, that retiree, has gone on to specifically, they've become a member of AARP, not of the Medicare exchange on the AARP plan. So that's the difference.
May I ask a follow-up?
Follow-up, please.
But to that point, they are on the plan, the VIA plan, in addition to their Medicare plan. That just continues to roll. What I'm trying to get to here is that VIA plan would continue to roll unless, like you said, they went to a health fair, got introduced to another plan, got off that plan because they were like, this one's less money or a better plan or what have you. But you also said that you send out like a booklet, and I'm sure you tell people, hey, don't do this. You send them a notice. There's obviously some back-end education that goes on into this process, right? So these people know, hey, don't do this because that's going to negate your current plan. And I guess, aside from the fiscal implications, which apparently there are none, I just think as an individual, if I enroll in the wrong plan, I'm stuck with that. Like that's on me. That's my responsibility to make those choices. And then I have to get onto a different plan a year later during open enrollment or what have you. So that's kind of what I'm, at what point is it up to these people to know their plan, to know their benefits, to make the right choice for themselves? And then I guess in addition to that, so what happens when they've signed up with AARP and now Pebb calls or someone calls and says, we know that someone signed up for a plan with you guys, but hey, you have to cancel that plan now because we're going to allow them to go back on their Pebb plan?
So for the record, Laura Rich, yes, there's obviously a degree of personal responsibility to this. And that's not just with the Medicare exchange, that's also in, with our active employees as well on the Pebb plans. Unfortunately, healthcare is complicated, and generally, this is something that we struggle with at Pebb.
Did I glitch or did she?
Broadcast, am I the only one that lost the signal?
I did too.
No, Chair, it appears that, Cindy with broadcast, it appears that her screen has froze. I think she lost connection on her end.
Understood. 1 minute recess so that broadcast can resolve this issue.
Chair, we are now unmuted to the broadcast.
Thank you, Cindy. Members, thank you for your patience. I'll call the meeting back to order. And Ms. Rich, I believe that you were in the middle of a remark. If you could start over, please, just for the sake of clarity for the record and for the sake of clarity of the members, kind of getting back in tune into the conversation.
Cindy, I keep getting kicked off.
Ms. Rich, right now we can hear you.
Okay, I apologize. Our internet here at our state office is it is not working.
No worries. Please continue.
Okay. So for the record, Laura Rich. So I think
I think we had the same issue. 1 minute recess. Cindy, if Not yet, Ms. Rich. Give us a
Okay.
few seconds.
Okay.
Chair Flores, we're ready to resume.
Thank you, Cindy. I'll call the meeting back to order. Members, thank you for your patience. Those of you following us virtually, as you understand, technology sometimes gives us issues. Thank you for your patience. Ms. Rich, thank you for calling in. I know we sometimes have faulty internet connections and there's nothing we can do about that. So thank you for your patience. Ms. Rich, if I could have you start over with the previous question, and then we'll take the conversation from there.
For the record, Laura Rich, I apologize for that. Our entire internet here went down, and I tried getting on using the Wi-Fi, and that didn't work either. So, technology problems. We'll do what we can. So, the question was around essentially personal responsibility, and what degree of personal responsibility do people have to ensure that they follow the rules. And unfortunately, this is something that we as a program deal with constantly, not just with our retirees, but with every aspect of every one of our members, because it's health insurance specifically is very complex, and unfortunately, a lot of people just don't take the time to understand it until they have to. And so as a program, we do our best to reach out and communicate to members and to ensure that members don't make mistakes such as, the mistakes that are happening with the Medicare retirees. The problem with our Medicare retiree population is, again, its age. And so, there's people that have been on the Medicare exchange for years. And let's say that, they're now 85 years old. And let's say that their son or their daughter or their grandparent, some kind of family member is now stepping in and is taking over their affairs because that person has declined in the last couple of years. And so this happens as well, not just from, the retirees who are making mistakes and, in moving on to or enrolling in plans outside of our Medicare exchange. But it also happens with, because as a result of the family members who are helping them and are unaware of the rules. And so this is something that usually after the first time they understand, and it doesn't typically happen again. But as you heard me say earlier, there are times that it does happen again, and that those state retirees who had that one chance have done it again a second time, and they are now off completely and do not have another opportunity to come back. The reason that we have to limit the amount of periods that a member can go without Pebb coverage is because of liability. So again, if let's say that you have a wave of members that have been disenrolled, or either by accident or on purpose, they've disenrolled, they let's say that there's a wave that comes back, all of a sudden the liability, that state liability for that HRA contribution is increased. And so we have to, as a program, ensure that, we are able to handle that liability. So that is why we limit it to one time. But you are correct that there is a certain degree of personal responsibility, and that is why, as a program, we do as much as we can to educate these folks and to remind these folks every open enrollment Medicare open enrollment, we send information out. I know that we work with our partners, our advocacy groups, RPEN, and AFSCME to make sure that they're also educating their members as well. So we do what we can, but you don't catch everybody. And this is one of those, this is just a mitigating fix to that one, just giving them that one-time opportunity.
And thank you, Assemblywoman, for that question. Members, at this time, any additional questions, feel free to unmute yourself and state your name for the record. Assemblywoman Martinez, were you hoping to ask a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Ms. Rich, you kind of answered my question. What I was going to ask you was, what's the average age of your retirees?
So for the record, Laura Rich, are you asking the retirees on the Medicare exchange or retirees in general? Because we do have retirees on the Pebb plans that are not Medicare eligible yet.
On the plan that we're discussing.
Okay, so that is the Medicare exchange. I would have to get you that information. I don't have that right off the top of my head.
The reason that I was asking is because, I've noticed that people that are a little bit older, not all, have issues with dealing with navigating the computer. I myself had issues with unemployment. I got locked out for a few months. Fortunately, I was able to get it, and I didn't have to wait another year to get my unemployment. So the reason that I was asking is I couldn't imagine that these people have to wait another year, especially during the times like now that we're going through COVID. And a whole year when we're dealing with the pandemic, that's just too long to not be insured, especially when you're at a more vulnerable age. But so that's the reason that I was asking about the ages, but it's kind of like a question and a comment. So thank you. I don't need to follow up, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. And I think your remarks sit well with this committee, as we often discuss how members of our community who are in their golden years sometimes need those added protections and layers of us intervening to ensure that we're doing everything after they've devoted their entire lives to the state. So I'd like to go next to Assemblyman Matthews, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sure I speak for most of the committee, Ms. Rich, and so we appreciate your patience and working through the technical problems there. I know there's been some challenges, so rest assured you're not alone. So thank you for powering through on that. I just wanted to circle back to my earlier question regarding the fiscal impact for local governments. And I know you noted, and this makes sense, that absent knowing how many people would re-enroll, it's hard to exactly quantify what the fiscal impact would be. But just to try to get a little more clarity, is there a range that you may be able to anticipate, or do you think you might at least be able to provide what a ballpark ceiling would be, just so we can try to get as much of a handle as possible on at least a worst case scenario, just in terms of what the fiscal impact would be, so we have clear eyes kind of going in. Thank you.
So for the record, Laura Rich, I certainly can. What I do know is out of these 1,400 non-state retirees, I do know where they come from. And so I'm able to, I can go through, or I can have staff put together a list of the local governments and who those 1,400 people belong to. And then also know that, obviously, so today, the most a retiree can receive out of this HRA contribution is $260. Next year, should things, so our obviously Pebb's budget has not been, it has not been heard or closed yet. However, there is a chance that the HRA contribution will be reduced next year, next plan year starting in July. So that does decrease in July. That is, so knowing that there is a top amount to that, there's a way to definitely look at what the potential could be for each of these local government agencies. So we can put something like that together for this committee.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Next, if I could have Assemblywoman Brown May. Assemblywoman, I believe you're muted. Unfortunately, I can't hear you, but it might be an issue just on my end. Broadcast, can you confirm if the issue is on my end or with the entire committee?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I'm getting good at this carrot. My question, thank you very much for your presentation. My question is really just one simple one. Given that there's a possibility of a fiscal note, and we've talked about that, have you approached local governments? Are governments on board with this?
For the record, Laura Rich, we have not approached local governments. I do know that the advocacy groups, so Retired Public Employees of Nevada, RPEN, and AFSCME are definitely in support of this. I'm sure you'll hear from them at public comment, but no, we have not approached the local governments. There are many of them, obviously. We can certainly reach out to them.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, I'd like to go to those wishing to speak in support of Assembly Bill 48. Broadcast, can you confirm if we have somebody on Zoom wishing to speak in support? My understanding is we do have folk that were ready to testify should questions come their way, but not speak in support. But if I need clarification on that, please let me know.
Absolutely, Chair. That would be my pleasure. To testify in support of AB 48, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 338. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm sorry, good morning, Chair Flores and members of the committee. Can you hear me okay? This is Priscilla Maloney with the AFSCME 4041 Retirees.
Good morning, welcome. We hear you perfect.
Okay, great. So my name for the record is spelled Priscilla Maloney. The AFSCME retirees are in support of this measure, and I would like to immediately circle back real quickly to, I believe it was Assemblywoman Brown's query or question just a few minutes ago before we went to public comment. So I believe Ms. Rich stated that there's approximately 5,936, if I heard that correctly, non-state retirees that this would affect. So I think it's important to understand that this is not a situation that comes up in great numbers, is my understanding. It's really an issue of constituent services for us, member services for Ms. Rich, and we wholeheartedly support everything she has presented this morning in support of this bill. But for instance, in our membership, I believe we were contacted twice in the last 12 months by AFSCME members who were also members of Pebb who had this situation come up, and we of course direct them to Pebb. So I think it's important to keep in perspective, it's not as if all approximately, again, 5,900 non-state retirees will be doing this, but I think we're all aware that older members of our communities are often flooded with misleading advertisements at best. And I mean, that's the most generous spin I can put on it. And it may be on the television, it may be through word of mouth, and they say, oh, we can save you a lot more money than you're spending on your current plan. And then they leave Pebb inadvertently, not really appreciating the full facts about what they've done. And we will be also on our end as an advocacy group, AFSCME 4041, if this bill passes and is signed by the governor, we will be doing a little bit of outreach too in coordination with Pebb to make sure that we do the best we can do to inform our membership. And most of AFSCME 4041's membership, by the way, are on the Medicare retiree exchange as opposed to pre-Medicare or what we call non-Medicare, which is a discussion for another day. Retirees, that's a separate bucket. We are talking about the retirees on the Medicare exchange today. So thank you. And if there are any questions, I'm available to do the best I can to answer. Thank you.
And thank you for your call this morning. I don't believe we have any questions at this time. Broadcast, we could go to the next caller wishing to speak in support of Assembly Bill 48.
Absolutely, Chair. Caller with the last three digits of 832, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last three digits of 832, please press *6 to unmute yourself. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Chair Flores and committee members. My name for the record is Terry Laird. That's spelled T-E-R-R-I-L-A-I-R-D as in David. I'm the Executive Director of the Retired Public Employees of Nevada, RPEN. RPEN was established in 1976 to protect the pension and benefits earned by all public employees. We are a nonprofit organization with nearly 8,000 members, many who are retired, although we do have up to 1,000 active members still working. We are testifying in support of AB 48 today because of the inequalities that you heard about between the state and non-state Medicare participants in the Medicare exchange at Pebb. As you heard from Ms. Rich, when a state Medicare exchange participant mistakenly leaves the exchange during open enrollment, they are given one opportunity to come back, but up to now, non-state Medicare retirees are not given the same opportunity. It's important because once a participant is out of Pebb, as you heard, they lose their valued health reimbursement arrangement, contribution, and many rely on that to help pay premiums and other health-related medical expenses. AB 48 can rectify this disparity. RPEN has received many desperate phone calls from Medicare participants who found themselves in this predicament, but were relieved to find out that Pebb had allowed one mistake, but again, only for the state Medicare, not for the non-state. Pebb has done a good job making sure Medicare participants are aware of this risk during open enrollment, but unfortunately, many retirees living on fixed incomes are always looking for ways to save money and therefore are more susceptible to the solicitations promising lower premiums. But unfortunately, many are still not aware of that fact that by selecting something else that may be a better offer, they are forfeiting their HRAs and other benefits. Also for the record, RPEN does publish 6 newsletters per year, and we do publish stories about this very issue on open enrollment, and we have a column in each newsletter from Pebb. So I know that Laura always talks about this issue. So we do our best to get the information out to our members statewide. In closing, we are hopeful that you will consider this concern and support AB 48. Thank you.
And thank you for your testimony. Broadcast, if we could go to the next caller wishing to speak in support of Assembly Bill 48.
If you recently just joined us and you would like to testify in support of AB 48, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits of 577, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Chris Daly, D-A-L-Y, Nevada State Education Association, the voice of Nevada educators for over 120 years. NSEA supports AB 48 to expand Pebb health coverage to certain non-state retirees. Educators across the state are increasingly concerned with accessing quality, affordable health care. This is true for active educators, even more true for retired education employees. NSEA believes healthcare is a right, and the state has a responsibility to ensure that those who have served to educate our kids have access to the healthcare they need to live with dignity. While AB 48 is only a small part of what needs to be done, it is certainly a step in the right direction. I'd also like to read some comments from NSEA President Tom Wellman, who's a retired counselor from the Clark County School District. President Wellman writes, one of the major expenses that our members face in retirement is the continuing escalating costs of healthcare. Any measure that can be put in place to help curb this runaway train is greatly appreciated. This bill will directly impact me and allow me and our members that qualify for this program to save precious health dollars each and every month by allowing us access to the exchange. I urge you to support this bill and help our senior citizens across this state gain access to affordable health care. However, please keep in mind that Nevada is a Web GPO state, and many of our retired members that would benefit from this program would not have access because they will not and do not qualify for Social Security and Medicare. Please consider as you move forward that active educators and support professionals need to have access to quality, affordable health care when they retire. Working together, you can help us solve this problem for employees that handle these life-changing assignments on a daily basis. Thank you.
And thank you for calling in. Broadcast, if we could please go to the next caller wishing to speak in support of Assembly Bill 48.
Thank you. Chair, you currently have no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to speak in opposition of Assembly Bill 48. Broadcast, please.
To testify in opposition of AB 48, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you currently have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite those wishing to speak in the neutral position for Assembly Bill 48.
To testify neutral on AB 48, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 837, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Chair Flores and committee members. This is Kent Irvin, K-E-N-T-E-R-V-I-N, for the Nevada Faculty Alliance, the Independent Association of Faculty at NSHE colleges and universities. We work to empower faculty to be fully engaged in our mission to help students succeed. We are neutral on AB 48 because it does not affect NSHE employees or retirees, but it is a positive step for the small number of non-state Medicare retirees that are affected, as stated by Ms. Laird, Ms. Maloney, and Mr. Daly. I'm testifying in neutral to observe that the limitation to a single reinstatement of Pebb coverage per lifetime was imposed in 2011 by AB 76. Before that, retirees were given an opportunity to reinstate Pebb coverage during open enrollment once each biennium. We question the need for the once per lifetime reinstatement limit for any retirees. Because the Affordable Care Act now requires coverage of pre-existing conditions for all insurers, adverse selection into Pebb after a serious diagnosis should not be a major issue. Adverse selection is not an issue at all for Medicare exchange participant because Pebb does not pay those claims. As healthcare systems change, they become more confusing, especially for seniors, so the once per lifetime gotcha is problematic. Thank you very much.
And thank you. Members, any questions? I don't believe we have any. Broadcast, if we could please go to the next caller wishing to speak in the neutral position for Assembly Bill 48.
Thank you, Chair. You currently have no more callers neutral at this time.
Thank you. If we could please have our our sponsor come back up, our presenter, so that we could have any closing remarks.
This is Laura Rich. For the record, I am here and able to answer any questions or follow-ups that the committee members may have.
Members, any final questions? Please feel free to unmute yourself and state your name for the record if you have a question. I think you've done a really thorough presentation, so we appreciate you walking us through this. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and thank you for the presentation. I'll close out the hearing on Assembly Bill 48. And next, I'd like to open it for public comment.
Thank you, Chair. To speak in public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, your public line is open and working, and you have no callers at this time.
Thank you. And I'm just waiting a couple of seconds. I know sometimes folk jump on right when they hear the announcement. But for now, we'll go ahead and close out public comment in case we do get a caller in the next minute or so. Broadcast, please let me know. Members, I want to thank you for your this week. Thank you, broadcast. Members, I want to thank you for your work this week. I know we covered a bunch of topics and we got into some rather heavy NRS talk. I don't know how else to describe it other than that, and I appreciate the attentiveness, the homework that everybody put in. Monday, we'll be meeting at 10 a.m. To hear Assembly Bill 127. That's going to be presented by our colleague and member here in our committee, Assemblywoman Dickman. We're looking forward to that presentation. I hope you all have a great weekend. But before we adjourn, as you know, Black History Month ends this Sunday. And in the spirit, as we've done in other committees, I wanted to adjourn today in recognition of all the women and men, specifically our Black women and men, who have made this state and contributed tremendously throughout the history of Nevada. Those who have gone unknown, and at times their credit was taken away, and those who now have a voice and share the collective history of what it means to be a Nevadan. Particularly, I want to say thank you, and what an honor it is to share this committee and have Assemblywoman Thomas, who is now a part of that collective Black memory and history here in Nevada, and that's being part of the overarching Nevada history. It's an honor to have your grit, your service in this state, and we look forward to continue to serve alongside of you. I just wanted to take that personal point of privilege. I know Black History Month is a year-round celebration. It should be, but I would have felt that it was incorrect that I did not at least once during our hearings acknowledge Black History Month and all the contributions of our amazing colleagues in this building. So it's an honor to be alongside of all of you. I look forward to continuing to work. And members, I'll see you Monday morning at 10 a.m. This meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.